Well, today I'm going to show you 3 marketing hacks on how I take a potential client, nurture them all the way through to having them hire me for a job. Hi, I'm Joel Grimes. We're going to do something that I think you will benefit from when it comes to creating an income with your camera, and that's how to go out and get clients. I'm going to show you 3 hacks that I have learned over the years that have literally built my business. The success of my business has hung on these 3 hacks. I have today with me Paul from Bloom. And Paul is a co-founder of Bloom. It's a CRM, it's the studio management software that runs your business. And this is so important to have. If you don't have a system like that or software that runs all that, you're in trouble. Now, I've talked about this over the years, and if you watched anything that I do on photography, I'm always pointing toward the business side, the marketing side of this whole, all the hats that we have to wear to make a living with our camera. And so I get excited about it because I have learned over the years how to go out and get clients and get work and provide for my family and live my dream. And so we've got, today, we've got we're really in the best time in history, in not only the photography side, but also the side of managing all these things that we have to do. And so I'm going to give you my 3 hacks. So we've broken it down. Paul's helped me on this. He's a lot better at organizing than I am. But we've come up with lead capture, and that is gathering a list of names of potential clients that you want to go market. Okay. Lead nurture, which is to go and then funnel something to them that puts your name in front of them. Okay. Your services, whether you're a wedding photographer or you're a food photographer or a commercial advertising photographer like me, you're putting something in front of them that will spark an interest to potentially hire you. And the third is the lead conversion. Now, I talk a lot about this, and I have summed it up with this term I've used called the power of 8. And that is, it's like magic. It's the most incredible thing. I've built my whole business on this. And that is, if I can get my name into the brain of the person, that photo editor, art director, photo buyer, whatever it is, the person that I'm looking to win over, if I can get my name into their brain, then when they have a crisis, for example, they got a job coming up and their boss says, we need a photographer. And they go, and they call their 5 favorite photographers, they're all booked. And all of a sudden they need a 6th photographer, somebody that can fill that slot. And they're willing to take a risk because they have to. And they go, oh, Joel Grimes. Pops into their brain. Why? Because I've done my 3 steps in winning that person over, and the power of 8, I've gotten my name into their brain. So if you can follow this, I can tell you right now, if you can follow what I'm going to share with you today, and Paul's going to show you how he's developed Bloom to help you, and I've been using Bloom for a couple of years now, but if you can do this, you will have a successful business. You say, Joel, I'm a really good photographer. It doesn't matter. I'll tell you why. Have you ever seen someone that's not a very good photographer that's very successful? I have. Have you ever seen someone that's a really good photographer that can't pay their bills? I have. So it comes down to the marketing and the ability to go out and get a client, get work. So with that, I guess, Paul, the thing that, and I've used Bloom, but it's a lot better to have you show our audience how to navigate through there. But the first thing I guess you would say is we need to get wherever you gather your names, whether it's through social media or through a source book. And I used to go to the library, and there was the top called the Journal Book of Lists. And in that Journal Book of Lists came out every quarter. They would have the top hospitals, and they'd list the names or top real estate agents, top ad agencies, top whatever it is. There was a book of lists, and I would go through that book of lists and I would write down, this looks like a great client. I'd write down it would be the receptionist, the phone number, and then I would call and get the person that handles buying or hiring photographers. I'd get that name. Once I got that name, then I began that process of working the promos, and then of course following up, getting the power of 8. So tell us how we can go simply and navigate through and begin to, let's say, take a generic client name and show us how we enter that into Bloom and begin that process.
Awesome. Well, hello, Joel. It's a privilege to join you here on your YouTube. Yeah, and to talk about marketing and specifically in photography, and you have outlined it just right. You know, you got to first think about capturing these leads. There are people out there who want to potentially, right, book your services, and how is it that you do that? So to do that right, you have to create some kind of outbound activity in your business. And so for some types of photography, that means literally hitting the streets, maybe going door to door. For some types of photography, that means picking up the phone and cold calling. For other types of photography, that means setting up Facebook ads, maybe Google, pay-per-click, search ads, maybe, it could be many different things, but you have to set up something where you are going out there and you have outbound activity, that you're getting in front of people somehow, right? And as you do that, you will obviously start collecting names, and you have to do something with those names. And unfortunately, this is where many freelancers at large and photographers in specific don't really have a system that works well. And so a CRM is where this becomes absolutely critical. CRM stands for Client Relationship Management. So it's a system that organizes the whole flow of how is it that you take somebody from capturing that lead all the way through booking their services and following up and hopefully booking them again and again. So when you first set out to manage your clients using Bloom, you're going to go to your leads tab, and here you'll see that I have 4 leads already entered. But first, before we talk about managing them, let's talk about how to enter them in here. And there's really 2 ways. You can do it either by sending out a form or entering them manually. If I press on new lead, I'll get the new lead form. And so here, say I'm going out door to door, or I'm making phone calls. I make a phone call to somebody, I get them on the phone, they're like, oh, this is interesting, but talk to me next week or something. So I'm gonna go in and say, Jane Smith picked up the phone, and let's say this is gonna be in, portrait work, or, whatever you have. And I'm gonna enter, Jane Smith's contact, and say I'm gonna, tag her as, let's do glamour. I don't know, just as a point of reference, okay? So I went ahead and created this lead, and now I have this entry in my database, and I know that I need to be following up with this person because potentially they might want to book my services. So you'll see up here, there's statuses that I assign to my lead. So right now, this is an active lead that I'm pursuing. Maybe at some point, I'll get back on the phone with her and she'll say, well, actually, I'm not interested in this service at all. And then I'll just mark her as disqualified and move on, right? No hurt feelings. Or maybe, I could never get a hold of her again, and after a while, I'm just gonna mark her as a lost lead. Maybe I'm gonna take a pause. She's tired of hearing from me, but 6 months from now, I wanna follow up, and I can pause this lead. And then 1 is, for me to track how many leads I'm winning, and just so I can have a nice record log of my activity. So once I'm in here, I have my tags, I have the contact information, and importantly, I have a history log of the activity that I'm doing. So say, for my next task, I'm gonna want to remind myself to do, to send a message a week from now. So today's the 11th, I'm gonna say on the 19th, I wanna follow up with this lead. I'm gonna put a start, and I can even right away go to my calendar and create an event right here from the lead section. I don't need to open my, phone or another program. Right away, I can just do follow up with new lead, create new event, and add it to my calendar, or just leave it here in the lead section. I'm going to save it, so now I have a reminder for myself in 7 days to follow up with this lead. And then maybe like on the phone as we were talking, she told me some other details that I want to remember. But if I don't write them down, I'll probably forget them. So here, here are some specific notes, right? So now I have some notes, and maybe, if there's even assets that I want to upload, I have a whole specific designated section where I'm tracking this lead. And then when I go back into my leads section, I can see all of my leads and how they line up with others. Then I can go in so if you do this right, any freelancer or photographer should have many leads that they're working on, maybe even hundreds. And once you set up your forms, especially if you're going to be running like ad campaigns, your forms should be generating tons of new leads. So say I'm going to do a lead capture form that I'm going to place, right in the center of my website, and I'm going to run web traffic and ads to my website. I'm going to target a very specific kind of photography. Generally, the rule of thumb is, if you're going to run ads, your whole website needs to be dedicated to that type of photography. So if you do wedding, make your website about wedding. If you do portrait, make it about portrait. If you do environmental portraits or something, or commercial photography, make it about that. Don't have 10 different types of work that you do in there. And when you do that, have a lead capture form right there on your home page, immediately available. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to ask a few questions to everyone who lands. I'm going to call this form title. I'm going to say website lead capture form, and here I'm going to ask maybe a short paragraph. What kind of work or photography are you looking for? And you could ask whatever kind of questions you can make them required or optional. And as you can see in these entries, we can do a scheduling question, we can ask them for their specialty, it can be a text field, it can be multiple choice, so it can be a very interactive and fun experience for them as they're filling it out. And then I'm going to ask for their contact information, and then once they fill it out, I'm going to have a little outro message, thank you for taking a moment to answer, and you can expect to hear back from me within 24 hours, looking forward to work with you. Now that I have the form set up, I'm going to go in here and save it, and then I can customize the font if I wanted to, match my website. And then you have 3 different options. You can either take this URL and you can just, copy it and paste it on your Instagram descriptions. You can post it on your Facebook, anywhere, you want to start capturing these leads. You can also, and then you can embed it on your website. You can embed it as a button or a direct embed. The difference is that a button will be obviously a button that's going to open up this full screen modal, and a direct embed will have the questionnaire already, so they don't have to click on anything. It's already right there on your website. And you can again style it and then just add this code to your website. What that does is it creates a way for you to be funneling all of your leads into one place, so that whether somebody lands on your Instagram or whether they land on your website or whether you're whether you're doing door-to-door, all of them are going to this one place that you have, and this is your centralized lead management interface. And so if you're out, you can do it on your app. If you're sitting on your computer, you can do it from your computer, and you're tracking them, and you're keeping track of everything that's going on. And most importantly, you're adding tags, and these tags allow you to create campaigns. So what Joel was saying earlier about you want to be top of mind. How do you be top of mind? Well, you might be doing 5 different types of work, or you have different types of clients that you're targeting, or maybe they're different organizations. Maybe you want to tag them by organization, for example. Then at any point you can go in here and maybe you're targeting churches. You can go in and filter out all the ones that have church tag on them, or commercial work or whatnot. And then when you see those, you can go in and target those specific leads, so that you remember to keep following up with them. Maybe you have a pre-written message for them, or a campaign, or maybe you have a discount or an offer, or maybe you're doing a mini session and you want to find everybody who's going to be qualified for that mini session. Yeah, there's so many different applications, but the point is you have to have organization and clarity in your business to make this work.
Yeah, Paul, I want to just mention something too that really helped me, and that is, if you do a little bit of this each day, then over time it builds up and you have a lot of names. So one of the things I've learned is if I make the task too overwhelming, then I'll never go back to it, or I'll never finish it. So my goal, as I started out in 1984, I was making cold calls. I would say today I'm going to make 50 cold calls, or whatever it was. I would keep it to a certain number. Maybe it's only 10. Whatever number you think you can manage that allows you to keep going, so you don't get burnout or you quit. So I think that's important to understand that. But if you do a little bit each day, or sometimes you might be shooting so you can't do any, but if you do a little bit each day that you have available, I call set aside for marketing, then at the end of the year you have this huge database that you're working with. So don't do it all at once, or don't expect that you can do it all at once.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's these It's the right habits that create exponential growth in a business, but it has to be the right habits every day. Set aside, that hour or 2 hours or 3 hours that this is what I'm thinking about marketing. This is what I'm doing my marketing activity. Another thing I wanted to mention here is when you're thinking about, creating outbound traffic, and especially, whether or not you're pitching, email or cold calling, or you're running ads, at some point, you're going to be sending those people and that traffic to a portfolio, right, or a website online. And I've also seen many photographers struggle to understand how these portfolios or websites should convert. And so they'll set up just a place with images, and it just looks like a gallery. It looks like almost like a museum of sorts. You just go in and you look at the art, and then you close the tab and move on. The most important thing in a website is you need to be able to capture those leads. If somebody landed on your website, you need to get their information. And that is absolutely critical, because you want them in this funnel. You want them here on this page. And so we've built in Bloom a very simple and easy to use website builder. If you don't have a website, if you need something very simple that works, if you already have a website, then you can just take these principles and apply them to your own website. So I'll go in here and quickly sample it. So when you have a website, what the mistake I see many photographers making is how they do the contact forms. It's usually tucked away. There's like a contact button somewhere, and they have to, their clients have to somehow, go through a whole process of figuring out where it is. And then by the time you get there, it feels like you're filling out a form to be, you're contacting Samsung customer support or something. It's just these, clunky fields, and you have no idea if you're ever going to hear back from the photographer. Like, it doesn't instill any confidence. Do you know what I mean? When you fill out I would say most of the photographers' websites that I've seen, the forms just give no confidence that I'm ever going to hear back. And so when you have a website, first of all, you want to have a very clear call to action. Like, that needs to be in color, it needs to be bold, it needs to have active verbs like book me, inquire, see pricing, something very specific, very, very targeted to what is the next step that your customers will be taking or your visitors should be taking. Obviously some kind of a description, and obviously a portfolio. So you have, images that are in your face, you have a gallery, that showcases your work. But at all times, as you can see on this website template, there's a book me button. And this button is absolutely critical, because it's always telling the viewer to, this is the next step you need to be taking. And what that does when they press it, it opens one of the forms. Again, I have, the little intro, and you press next, and now I have my questionnaire that I created here. I'm gathering information. Are they, looking for business photography, or are they an actor, or other, or are they a model? I want to know, how am I going to be segmenting this lead? How am I going to be marketing to this lead? And tell me about your needs. I want to gather more information. I need photos. And then another thing that's really, really critical, and you mentioned lead conversion. You have to make it very easy for somebody to book your services. The more friction you create, the less likely somebody will book you. Now, there's different types of industries of photography, and some require a level of complexity, but a lot of photographers do, for example, headshots, right? Headshots are pretty straightforward, and most people, when they do headshots, they have pre-built, more or less generic packages that you can pre-package and structure into a system that's repeatable. And instead of, every time saying, okay, what kind of headshots are you looking for? Well, when somebody asks me that question as a consumer, I'm like, I don't know, what kind are there? And then if you ask me, well, what's your budget? And I'm thinking, well, I don't know, what's the range? So those kind of questions for consumers put a lot of pressure on them, and it makes them work and makes them think, and they don't want to work and they don't want to think like this. So you need to make it very, very easy. Like when Amazon added their one-click checkout, they increased revenue in the billions overnight just by making it easier. So in Bloom, we created a system where you can pre-package essentially these are, invoices ready to go, but they're packaged into these beautiful, experiences where here I have express, standard, and like top shelf, headshot photography. And so say I go into the standard one, I can see the kind of, work that's being included. These are essentially the line items where I can see the descriptions, the quantity, how long it lasts, the price, and even if there's like a promo that's being applied to it. So I can see all of this, and I can even embed this right on my website. Say I have a website just for headshot photography, I can put this form embedded right dead in the center and make people go through that form right away. So if they do this, I'm actually skipping the lead nurturing. I'm taking them right from lead capture into lead conversion, which is amazing. If you can do that, you've expedited the entire process. So say they're going to pick this package. Next, I have add-ons. So now I'm trying to upsell. Do you want more retouched images? How many do you want? Do you want professional makeup, et cetera, et cetera? I can keep, upselling them here. And then, the next step is obviously choosing a day and time. And again, this can be this endless back and forth. Oh, when are you available? Oh, I'm busy that day. Oh, what about next week? And then once you get into that back and forth, they might just find another photographer. You want them to book right away, like don't waste any time. So we've created a system in Bloom that integrates with your calendar. You set up availability, like booking and scheduling rules, and then you go in and let them pick a date right away that works for them. So say like, hey, next Wednesday, 11:30, I'm available, let's do it. And I'm gonna write my name here, keep moving. Okay, then look at this. We even have like contract signing. If you're the kind of photographer that requires contracts, you can require it before booking. So we're going to do a signed contract, and I'm going to enter my name, check off the check mark, sign the contract. If I wanted to view it, I could view it here. Next, look at that, payments ready to go. So now I can see now my package overview, payment info, billing, payment schedule, because in this package, I created a system where I allow them to prepay $100. And then this is really cool also because like, okay, when you do upfront like partial payments, sometimes gathering the remaining balance can be a real pain in the rear because you have to chase them down. What if they didn't pay it, but you wanted to pay it by a certain date? The way we've done it is when you put in your card and you charge the initial payment, the remainder will be drawn automatically on the invoice due date. So you don't even have to do anything. It's just going to automatically be charged to their card. So it simplifies your process, simplifies it for your clients as well. That way they don't have to pay everything up front. And as you've noticed, you've literally taken from capture to conversion and payment and everything and put it into one form and literally one link that could be embedded on your website. And this is how the modern day works in terms of, especially consumer purchasing kind of experiences and trends. You just have to make it incredibly easy. You have to make it straightforward, in your face, as easy as possible to book your services. And so a tool like this just empowers you to look incredibly professional. Like when you give this to your clients, they're going to think, wow, this is top shelf experience. And then when you charge, a bigger sticker price, they're going to be thinking, well, that's appropriate because this is a professional experience. I'm not paying through Venmo or Cash App or something, that I would be paying my friend through.
Nice. Well, one of the things that I tell my kids, I have 4 boys, and 3 of them are kind of doing the film, making movies, doing commercials and stuff, and they're in this industry just kind of like I am. But I always tell them that if they can get into the 5% of people that are effectively marketing and managing their client, relations, they will be successful because most people don't do this. It's not, Paul, you and I mentioned this, I use this word, it's not sexy. Like I said, if I talk about, cameras and, strobing and modifiers and everyone's all on board. But if we talk about the business side, people go, oh, well, I don't really need that. And so then they whine and complain that they can't make a living with their camera. And so that's why I feel passionate about, number one, having the ability to have a program like this, and then implementing into my business, my marketing, all that. And that's why I'm excited to, introduce to my audience Bloom, because it is that cool. It is that amazing of a system. So, Paul, I have a question for you. When it comes to the marketing and you have a pretty good list of names, How can we automate that process in, say, sending out emails?
Yes, that is an excellent question because sometimes, you might be, especially if you're focused on a few specific types of photography that you're running. We were using headshot as an example. When somebody fills out a lead form, maybe you want to send, 3 emails that go out in the span of like 2 weeks. And they're all basically the same emails that you'd be sending out, except you just want to change the customer's name or something like that. And if you're going to be doing that every time the lead comes in, then you have to go in here, you press send message, and then now you can do that, and then you could go to your email templates and maybe do like just select the form, and you'll see, the variables automatically added here. But you can also automate this process, and that's what's amazing about Bloom. Bloom really helps put your business in autopilot, where a lot of these actions that are repeatable, you can just set up rules and automations. Let me just show you how that works. So when you go into settings and then you click on automations, here you can set up these automations, as many as you want. So say I'm going to do new automation, and I'm going to say lead capture, automation. So for this one, I want to send an email, but you can also send a specific questionnaire, maybe like, a week before your project date, you want to send out a questionnaire asking like detailed questions or something like that, right? So I can do that here. But I'm going to do send email, and then of course I'm going to select a template that I've pre-built, or you can go in and create a new template right from here. I'm just going to select, well, you can also do follow-up emails. That's really cool. So say, for example, your project ended, you wanted to ask them about their experience and ask them to like leave a review. Maybe you'll forget to send out that email, but if you automate it, then it's going out on its own. So I'm going to do lead follow-up email, and here you can select the triggers. So I have payment processed, or project date, or project created, project status change, lead form filled out, anniversary, birthday, invoice status change, estimate created, contract signed. So these are all triggers that I can use to set up automation emails. So for this one, I'm going to do lead form filled out. As soon as it's filled out, then I set the timing. Do I want it to be sent out immediately or after, like say 1 day? So maybe the first one I'll call it lead capture immediately. And then I'm going to create another one, and I'm going to say lead capture 2 day, and then I'm going to do like a lead capture 7 day, and each one will have a different template. So I'm going to do lead form filled out 1 day, and then you can even go in and create rules. This is really, really powerful. So I can have these automations go out depending on a specialty. So say I want this one only to go out to those who have, portrait or business headshot. That way I can be sure that it's not being sent out to any of my other clients because the email's focused just on that. And then I can set additional rules, like maybe that plus I want them to have a certain tag. And this is where these campaigns and tagging becomes really, really important, because you can literally set up automations to run your entire, this is what in marketing they call like a drip campaign, where somebody comes into your funnel and you're setting up a drip sequence. You're creating reasons for them to keep thinking about you. You want to be top of mind, and so the more leads you put into your funnel, and now you have all these automations that are set out to go, and then you're reminding them why you're valuable. You're reminding them why your work is better than everybody else's, and you have these emails that are automatically set out to go. And so you set these rules, and then bam, you go in and save the automation, and it's ready to go. Now it's working for you. And now it's as if, every time somebody fills out the form, you're sitting there writing their email, but they're going out, on your behalf, and your customers' your customers' names are in there. It's all customized. So it looks like you literally sat down and just typed it on the spot.
So, Paul, I have a question for you. When it comes to the marketing and you have a pretty good list of names, how can we automate that process in, say, sending out emails?
Yes, that is an excellent question, because sometimes you might be, especially if you're focused on a few specific types of photography that you're running. We were using headshot as an example. When somebody fills out a lead form, maybe you want to send 3 emails that go out in the span of like 2 weeks. And they're all basically the same emails that you'd be sending out, except you just want to change the customer's name or something like that. And if you're going to be doing that every time the lead comes in, then you have to go in here, you press send message, and then now you can do that, and then you could go to your email templates and maybe do like just select the form, and you'll see, the variables automatically added here. But you can also automate this process, and that's what's amazing about Bloom. Bloom really helps put your business in autopilot, where a lot of these actions that are repeatable, you can just set up rules and automations. Let me just show you how that works. So when you go into settings and then you click on automations, here you can set up these automations as many as you want. So say I'm going to do new automation, and I'm going to say lead capture, automation. So for this one, I want to send an email, but you can also send a specific questionnaire, maybe like, a week before your project date, you want to send out a questionnaire asking like detailed questions or something like that, right? So I can do that here. But I'm going to do send email, and then of course I'm going to select a template that I've pre-built, or you can go in and create a new template right from here. I'm just going to select, well, you can also do follow-up emails. That's really cool. So say, for example, your project ended, you wanted to ask them about their experience and ask them to like leave a review. Maybe you'll forget to send out that email, but if you automate it, then it's going out on its own. So I'm going to do lead follow-up email, and here you can select the triggers. So I have payment processed, or project date, or project created, project status change, lead form filled out, anniversary, birthday, invoice status change, estimate created, contract signed. So these are all triggers that I can use to set up automation emails. So for this one, I'm going to do lead form filled out. As soon as it's filled out, then I set the timing. Do I want it to be sent out immediately or after, like say 1 day? So maybe the first one I'll call it lead capture immediately, and then I'm going to create another one, and I'm going to say lead capture 2 day, and then I'm going to do like a lead capture 7 day, and each one will have a different template. So I'm going to do lead form filled out 1 day, and then you can even go in and create rules. This is really, really powerful. So I can have these automations go out depending on a specialty. So say I want this one only to go out to those who have, portrait or business headshot. That way I can be sure that it's not being sent out to any of my other clients, because the email's focused just on that. And then I can set additional rules, like maybe that plus I want them to have a certain tag. And this is where these campaigns and tagging becomes really, really important, because you can literally set up automations to run your entire, this is what in marketing they call like a drip campaign, where somebody comes into your funnel and you're setting up a drip sequence. You're creating reasons for them to keep thinking about you. You want to be top of mind, and so the more leads you put into your funnel, and now you have all these automations that are set out to go, and then you're reminding them why you're valuable. You're reminding them why your work is better than everybody else's, and you have these emails that are automatically set out to go. And so you set these rules, and then bam, you go in and save the automation, and it's ready to go. Now it's working for you. And now it's as if, every time somebody fills out the form, you're sitting there writing their email, but they're going out, on your behalf, and your customers' your customers' names are in there. It's all customized. So it looks like you literally sat down and just typed it on the spot.
Nice. One of the things that I was just thinking of when you were talking about this is, in the 90s, my kids were little. I had to, provide for the family. I had diapers. I had, music lessons and all the things that it requires to raise 4 kids. And luckily, we didn't have Amazon. I could have bought too many things on Amazon to pay. But the point is that one of the things that I did as sort of a side business, because I was doing commercial advertising and corporate, like say, annual reports. But I started doing corporate headshots, and I found the reason why that fell into my lap is that I was pitching annual reports and stuff, and then a lot of times they say, well, we need someone to come out and shoot some corporate headshots. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I started doing that, and I discovered that just about every corporation out there needs headshots. They promote someone to vice president or whatever they do for their website. They have to have a face of everyone on the board, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so what I did was I went out and I just started pitching, like even law firms. I'd go out and I would call up a law firm and say, hey, I'm a photographer. Do you ever need headshots? Oh, yeah. Well, who's the person that I need to talk to? Oh, that's Betty Smith. Okay. Then I would, contact Betty Smith and say, I'm available, send some samples over. Next thing I know, I'm just shooting their top management or their top lawyers or whatever. Yeah. And I got to where I was billing easily $5,000 to $6,000 a month as a side business, just shooting headshots. Yeah. So That's how simple it is, folks. If you can find an industry that needs photography, and I used to say that take a rock and go downtown somewhere and you'll hit a building that needs photography. I mean, even here in Phoenix, which is a pretty good sized city, there are hundreds of potential clients waiting at your fingertips. So this program gives you the ability to manage that lead capture and lead, finding out how to keep track of all these names, and then you send them emails, reminders. Hey, they might say, look, we do all our headshots in September. Oh, okay. Well, it's June. I'll put a note in there to remind me to call them and send them an email or something in September. So it's really kind of fun. So last thing I'm going to say is this. I don't know if any of you love fishing. And I used to fish when I was a little kid. And I haven't fished much because I'm, full-time photographer, dad, making a living, all that stuff. But I got my brothers are firemen, they all fishing because they have all that time off. But when I fished, I remember I would throw out the line and get nothing. I'd throw out the line and get nothing. And and all of a sudden you get a little nibble and you're like, whoa. That's kind of exciting. Your heartbeat rate goes up a little bit. Then you go and you finally capture a fish, right? Or catch one. What I did with my marketing was I tried to make it a game. And when I say this, I'd rather be playing golf, I guess. I'm actually not a golfer, but I'd rather be playing something other than marketing. But I made it a game, and I would get a name from an art director in a big ad agency, and I would just keep sending stuff to that art director, and I'd keep sending, and I would just, every once in a while I would, tease with something, a new image, a new poster. I used to drop off posters, by the way, and eventually they'd call me. And so it makes it fun when you create it into a little bit of a challenge, and you see it working, and then you start getting all this work. And I'll say one last thing here. After I started getting pretty good at marketing, we used to, back in the days when we had the labs where the photographers would go pick up their film. So we'd rub elbows all the time. And a lot of photographers would come up and say, Joel's a genius at marketing. What's your secrets? And I used to say, I'm barely a C average student, I'm kind of dumb as a rock. How can I be a marketing genius? And it was because I saw the value of it, and I was consistent at it. Those are the two things that allowed me to become very successful. So make it a game, make it consistent as part of the process that you do every day. You get up, you spend an hour or two doing marketing, then you go off and do your photography, whatever. Make it part of your system. And when you have a management system like Bloom, it makes it a lot easier. So I wanted to mention, Paul, you are giving people a discount to Bloom, and we're going to put that link in the description below, and they can go and click on it, and it's a pretty decent discount, so it gets them started. And we've talked about this before. You relish in people succeeding, because if they succeed, they stay a client, right? They stay a member. And so you want that. So that's your goal, and that's why you've made these things incredible. And you've been adding things to Bloom over the years too that upgrade it and give some new ideas. And you're constantly looking at the market and how to navigate in the marketplace. So I think you're in it for the long haul, and you want people to succeed and be in it for the long haul too.
Absolutely, Joel. Absolutely. We only succeed if our users and our clients succeed. So we have built this exactly for that purpose. Well, it's been a pleasure, and we are excited to offer your audience a special offer to get started with Bloom and to make Bloom the home of where their businesses are managed.
Nice. Well, with that, we're going to continue on, and Paul, we're going to do some more of these down the road. So if you see this video, look for some more. So Paul and I will have a few of those coming out to help you guys succeed in your business. So as I say, go out and make a living with your camera.